Hello, this is the 10th video of the series on some areas that I'm covering for UGC NET and similar exams. I've said that you can study the static portion for yourself. The point is that these exams, UGC NET specifically, they're testing you on what you've read during your degree courses. It doesn't matter what it is, it can be bachelor's, it doesn't have to be master's. But it's up to you how much you read, and your syllabus is indicative of, and it is essential to go through what's in your syllabus and around it. And then it's a matter of how much you are interested in, how much you're able to spend time on reading and lots of things. But there is certain core body of texts, and I've said this in previous videos, that you have to study, you absolutely have to study. Shakespeare being one of the main authors to study. Whatever arguments will come against this, irrespective of those things, I'm telling you, Shakespeare is at the heart of all of this, because Shakespeare influenced a lot, and Shakespeare opens doors to classics and so many things. So let's start. Today I'm going to ask questions about empiricism. Now, asking questions, finding answers, is it a good thing to ask questions? How do you ask questions, and what do you ask questions about, and things like that? We'll look at that over time, but it is, I think, a good idea to have questions, and at the same time, the quality of questions, it matters a lot, and the direction, yes, so those things. Empiricism, we are talking about, I don't know, names like Adam Smith, or and of course Mill. Forerunners of limits of I don't see of limits to growth. Okay, Ricardo, I've not come across that name before, but as you can see, these three are grouped together, so I'm in the right direction. So, Wealth of Nations is something that's known to you. J.S. Mill is famous for things like utilitarianism, and you have all of this when you. So, I'll see a reference in Dickens, for example. Kind of. See my point? That's why, I mean, that's how I can justify that this has to be studied by you. Limits to growth, and then, of course, you have this other name. When you talk about Mill, you have Bentham, Jeremy Bentham, right? So, empiricists. Rationalism versus empiricism, then there's something positivism. If you've been going through the videos, if you recall, we came across whatever it was open access, and this is not the same as that one. Yes. So there's this predominantly positive history, so it might be this positive that's meant here. I'm not getting into those things, but positivism. Now you can sit with a dictionary of these various disciplines and have an overview of what this is about. But for a great part, you will have to do that. You can't actually read so many subjects. I mean, it's taxing. It's taxing to say the least, and you will have to find time to read so much and to revise so much and retain so much, and it's a lot of work. Okay, so the idea is that let's just give me a moment. Yeah. So the other day we visited this. We came across this page, and there's a long list of philosophers, and Leibniz is something that you come across again and again. Schopenhauer, Darwin is, yeah. So empiricism, and the other one is evolution theory. And thing is, this is what I said yesterday. Is there curiosity, or you are forcing curiosity, or you are imposing curiosity, etc. So the empirical, I'm saying very strong things. It's highly opinionated, but then if Spacey can be opinionated, opinionated is how it is output on the website. So if Spacey, blazing fast NLP, yeah, opinionated. Spacey tries to avoid asking the user to choose between multiple algorithms that deliver. The main difference is that, okay, the main difference is that Spacey is integrated and opinionated. Spacey tries to avoid asking the user to choose between multiple algorithms that deliver equivalent functionality. Keeping the menu small lets Spacey deliver generally better performance and experience. Blazing fast NLP. Blazing fast NLP. So industrial quality NLP. That's how it is touted. And the point is, it is a very opinionated view I'm giving you, but the empirical basis itself on evidence. How much of evidence was planted in and that kind of thing. So with words used as non-fungible tokens, non-fungible tokens in a knowledge economy, evidence planting or evidence placing, to make it neutral, palatable, whatever, is through repetition. Now, do does it work the same way with the word coming from authority in other times, such as the Treta Yuga? I could talk about other things. I'm talking about Treta Yuga. I could because this is. I mean, I will be criticized for things like, okay, why talk about this thing only? Why not talk about that other thing, and so on and so forth. So you know this Ram's name on stones, right? That's famous. Ram Setu. So Ram Setu, history of fact, mythical myth or historical fact. So the other day I searched mythology versus retractions, and I said it was bold, right? versus theorizing, and then there's armchair theorizing, and then, for example, there is Trev Tutor on YouTube saying computers. So it's not just me, and it's not coming from there. It's the question is, where are you borrowing your ideas, concepts, and vocabulary, and so on and so forth from, and creating a domain out of it. Age of Empires, the game Age of Empires, the very famous game, is the analogy I gave you, right? Computer science is to be served by drawing trees in certain ways, so on, so on. So anyway, Ram Setu. By the way, this is the International Siddhashram Shakti Center. I don't know what that is. Hinduism stock uh, stack exchange, miracle or myth. That's Tanzania. So many things. So many things. It's called so appropriation. Shin is worth studying for these reasons. Is it Adam's Bridge or is it Ram Setu? And then there is this ongoing stuff about naming and changing names, and I wouldn't want to get into that again for obvious reasons. Let's say Yugo Sako. That would, yeah, this one, right? This one. Ram Setu. Ram Setu, by the way, it's not the first time I'm talking about. There is a very good example of evidence. So, how you prove archaeological proof, archaeological evidence, and so on. That kind of thing. Anyway, I have already mentioned Ramayana before. So, does it work the same way with the word coming from authority, other times such as the Treta Yuga? Okay, you could talk about Ashoka's expanse. You could talk about Akbar's secular rule. The word secular is it is debated what it means for one context and for another context. By the way, I was talking about this earlier today and model context protocol. So this is, yeah. So MCP server. What's an MCP server? And there's a recent, for example, there's a recent tutorial from Free Code Camp, and the question is which bits to proceed with. That is one of the things you look at when you're talking about these things, and when you're talking about things like specialization and so on. So tolerance and so many things. I mean, yeah. So there's Aurangzeb, and I can go on talking about these things, and there is something about Akbar's reign. I would invite you to. You have history books in India. Okay, so find out more. Find out more about this. Pillars of Ashoka. So the point I'm trying to make is words as non-fungible tokens in an economy. It's been so for as long as language has existed. It's not something new. Today, it's become a matter of brain computer interfaces to that extent. It has to that depth. It has penetrated. That's how ubiquitous and pervasive it's becoming. That's one. Second, you have brands running things your place. So that kind of this is what you're looking at when you're talking about copyright, right? And when you're talking about 4-day work week and so many things. Okay, so brain computer interfaces and brand selling. So I can simply tell you Internet of Things, right? So I don't have to talk about brain computer interfaces. That's way beyond what maybe. I mean, it's getting into things like, okay, that is like H.G. Wells or George Orwell. Or but the thing is, Internet of Things is already here, and we talk about mass surveillance, and we watch these things and shows that we have today, and so on. So empiricism and how the machinery works. Okay, how the machinery of empiricism works. And coming back to philosophers, Russell has been influential, and this doesn't Occam's razor something that you would come across when you start reading. And thing is, a dirt cheap scriptural book will tell you all that you might learn over n years in your life by having this or that. And it's getting into consumerism, and I've already discussed knowledge economy, and consumerism. And so this is the behind the scenes stuff that you have to be able to talk about. This is okay. That is why I'm going through this. If you want examples, official guide examples, Gman. And I would recommend you to go through some questions. And I came across something like BlackRock questions. I don't know quantitative questions. I came across this BlackRock quantitative analyst questions. So 100 murderers guard one bullet. That's the question I came across recently. How would you solve that problem? Anyway, you can go through these questions, verbal reasoning, and figure out for yourself. Okay, reading comprehension. Reading comprehension is, of course, it's tailor made for those particular domains, disciplines, but critical thinking, again, associative psychological principles. How should I put it? So what comes to my mind doesn't have to be necessarily the same as or similar to what comes to someone, some management student or professionals mind. And that's a way, and that's one reason why I might make an error. For example, the analogy might fail, right? And it all happens in the brain. It all happens in a very, very short amount of time. So we are talking about analogy coming to your mind, and you deciding on one of the four options in split second. So that's that's again, for example, on the GMAT, you'll have your analytics recorded as to how much time you took to answer these questions. And on the GRE, you have a research section, and on the GMAT as well, you have a research section. Sometimes, yeah, times they're optional. Times you don't know if it is a research section, and so on. So these are things that are happening in the background, and you need to know about them more so that ever more so, whatever the expression is. Now that we have AI and following these developments, the scene has changed drastically. So, what else do you want to know about empiricism for English literature? Maybe like that. I'm just exploring it with you. Okay, British empiricism. It's definitely had a great effect on. Yeah, as you can see, the Victorian web covers an entire entry on this, so it's worth examining how much. And you will have, for example, cultural materialism and literature, literature from literary theory, cultural studies, okay, literary and critical theory, right? That's bibliographies. I would recommend this. Go through a bibliography, find out what might be of use to you. And Shakespeare, and again, this is getting into giving an economic model of things and so on. So, for example, there's Smith from Oxford. She's she's worked on intertextuality and so on. So we came across intertextuality in the entry on appropriation. We had this starting with adaptation, if you recall all that. Okay, that's from some videos before this one, and I would request you to keep revising these things and finding out more. So Smith is another example I've given you. Okay, and then there's Reddit, and there's Stack Exchange, and Stack Exchange literature might be there, and so many other resources that you can use. But I would recommend you to go through official sources. I would recommend you to go through sources such as bibliographies. Now, I came across something very. It depends on what use you can make of it, but I mean, I can tell you about RDF files and reducing the time to uh, mm, work with databases and things like that. That's different. And graph fundamentals. This is the same as this graph is the same as the graph that we've been looking. Graph of philosophers network. Okay, but that's different. What I wanted to tell you about was encyclopedia primary sources. As Reno Library, I think America. LinkedIn is where I got it. Okay. So encyclopedia of primary sources. I got that yesterday. Arsino, it's Astrino. I don't. Whichever it is, Arsino Library. Arsino Library. It's completely alien to me. I don't know where it is. I don't know. Um, yeah, it's the first time I'm looking at this name in my life. Okay, even if it's Phoebe and everything there, Phoebe is definitely Apollo is another one. So yeah, so even if there are these names, I must say that this is Arsenal's the first time I've come across this. Arsenal Library. There is this post on LinkedIn. Encyclopedia of primary sources is what you search, and you start getting things like that. And I've already mentioned some like public domain versions of Britannica Encyclopedia online, and primary sources, original sources. That's what you want. Britannica original sources, and Britannica itself is made up of aggregation of knowledge and so on from so many sources, right? So many research monographs and articles. Notes and queries is another one. Notes and queries is another journal. So this is literature. This is literary journals I'm talking about. So depends on what subject we are looking at. We are looking at English literature. So notes and queries is certainly one of right. You need subscription, and it says through your school. So it's probably institutional access only, and there might be this kind of thing available elsewhere. It's a matter of figuring out if we can get access to it, or where and how we can get access to these things on. Right. Three collections, just or primary sources, and this is what we have here. I'm looking at this page for the first time in my life. I'm doing this with you. So, first-hand accounts and historical archives. Eyewitness is the word that was used on that page, right? Britannica, Southampton, primary sources. So when I search encyclopedia of primary sources, that's what came up. And you will come across these things when you're, for example, for example, so what I invite you to do, what I request you to do, in fact, is to use what you know with your own brain, your own mind applied to it. Okay. Again, I said yesterday, you don't have to experience things firsthand. You cannot do that. One cannot experience electricity firsthand. One cannot experience poison firsthand. So it's obvious, and these things are developed by the time we are, I mean, six. I guess I don't know anything about any of that. Even if I've named Ericsson, I came across in my reading and I mentioned it to you. Ericsson is just one example. What I'm trying to say is we don't think about these things consciously, and we know that we have to take care when we are handling electricity, or when we are handling inflammable substances and so on. So, for example, okay, now primary sources for research on Shakespeare, but at the same time, you have to be creative with what you know. That is how innovation, research, and that is what these things require you to do. I mean, nobody tells you to come up with a phrase of your own. And the question involves, the consideration involves the question, whose right is it to say how language will be? So recently I said humans complicate language. It's a matter of perspective and other things. So let's get into what we searched. Primary sources for Shakespeare research, bardweb.net. You could go for that, or you could go for library guides from various universities. It does not matter. There will be overlap, and one will be taking from a lot of other sources. Like it's like RSS feed and news agencies. Okay, that's what I'm saying. So it's not something that you have to think about. I'll use only resources from universities. It doesn't matter as long as the resources themselves are authentic. AI is using retracted papers. That's what I've been going through. I'm not, of course, I'm not. I would like you to find these things for yourself. And here we have Retraction Watch, we have MIT Technology Review. So we see confirmation of what one says in two and vice versa. Yeah. This is something we came across in another video previously. So much to talk about. And I've had input from, yeah, I've had input from an academic who talked about this frequently. Yeah, thanks to this academic. So yes, it's a matter of how much I am interested in. I mean, if you wanted to write a poem, would you use AI? That's the kind of question it is, and I wouldn't get into those things. And I would, I mean, I have, let's say, 100 C5, 50. So that big a number. So would I have 100 words? No, because 100 words will be, you might have come across stop words, high frequency words, NLP and so on. So stop words. So let's say I want to write a sonnet. Sonnet is at most of how many words? 100 to 130 words, right? So 100 to 130 words. Let's say there will be 50 words from which I'll be choosing. 50 C 50 is not. So I want to combine 100 words from, let's say, 500. No, 500 will be too much. It will be too much. So let's say I have 150 words. I'm thinking about what the end result is going to be. Combinations calc. The number of combinations for 150 choose 100 is this one. So you probably know about this. So I'm talking about how to generate poetry using software programs, AI generating poetry. And you could ask AI to generate code to write a combinatoric spaced poetry generator. So there's something called algorithmic thinking and things like that, and I don't want to get into those things because I'm not from computer science proper. So thinking, and this is all part of this is related to critical thinking. For example, why am I giving you all of this? It is definitely related to critical thinking. It's not a hunch. I'm 100% sure that when you draw a tree or when you draw a graph, you will have very strong links to algorithm thinking with the other critical thinking and other things that you have in this area of thought however it is put. Generating algorithmic poetry, experimental humanities. There's already a university project there, brd.edu. That's a university, right? Building AI powered poem generator, Alex Hort Francis. That's 1 year ago. Code Bar channel, infinite poetry generator with AI poem generator, so on and so forth. So AI is already generating. YouTube is full of 20%, 20% full of AI generated videos. So not something you would want, and not something. These numbers, they don't make sense, and that's why you have rephrasing and metaphor and limits to human memory. I mean, you can't expect people to recall so many combinations, and such considerations there are. And that's how, for example, advertising banks on. So you could go on talking about these things, and you will have all of these things in management. They study about. So, for example, I said that mathematics was invented, or we discovered that's from philosophy and management. People, they'll study these things as case studies, and they'll study these things as staple, because they use these things to generate conversion sales and leads, and that it's applied. Um, how should I put it? Applied knowledge, kind of. So how would you use what you know or don't know, and can find out, and so on. And then there are practices that are discouraged, and which are part of competition, which are part of competitive environments, and there's something called uh, constructive competition or positive competition, whatever it is. That's I mean, you talk about symbiosis, and then you talk about challenges. Challenges is one thing from reading comprehension passage that I was teaching. Again, that's GMAT official guide. Just look at the papers and you'll get them there. So monopoly, and if you follow the news, you'll read about, depends on what you're following in the news. Again, what your interests are. If you're following sports, that's totally different from, for example, knowing about challengers. So challengers in a business environment. Challengers in a business context. That's a very, again, it becomes, it's a matter, the word is jargon, and challenges, as you know, is again secondary meaning, not the first meaning, right? Not the literal thing. So, and that is where, for example, you get things like business English. Okay, so these are not things I want. This kind of thing is what I'm talking about. Challenges. Okay, so getting back to sources, it can be anything. It doesn't have to be university, but primary sources, primary versus secondary sources, websites, further reading, national archives, lost play databases. Wow, that's something new. I have known about the hard web, but again, I have not visited this page before. It's not the case that I don't know about primary sources. You'll find it at, in a starting introduction, in a starting article on research and literary research and so on. So anyway, that would be something to find out more about, right? So I'll definitely bookmark it. And yeah, so that is how you go about research. Looking at, you can see that we are looking at research skills in action, research skills in action, right? That's the difference between how these things convey meaning. So great, and I'll leave it for you. This is, I mean, too many things to go through. Okay. Encyclopedia primary sources, and you don't want the AI on this because AI is giving incorrect information on living people. Is that correct? I don't know. Find out. See, Google AI overviews put people at risk of harm with false and misleading health information in Google's artificial intelligence summaries. Wow, that's that's serious. That is serious. And then we talk about and let it be. So AI assistants misrepresent. Again, this is also about academia versus industry versus other stakeholders, including publishing houses, and there's so much that's going into this that you don't want to you want to take it with a pinch of salt. At the same time, I know for a fact that the people. So I came across Chat GPT is being used by people for what? Visualization. So OpenAI itself has this practical guidance, writing, seeking information, technical help. You can see seeking information is a big part. Technical help, multimedia, other self-expression. Why would you use ChatGPT for self-expression? Anyway, asking for specific info again. That's getting into why would you use ChatGPT for writing poems? So a person used AI to write books and has made thousands. I came across this. Um, uses AI to write books, makes thousands. Yeah, claims used. Okay, so it's been in other. It's been on other websites, and that's how. That's and there's another one I can share with you. I found it on LinkedIn, and I would invite you to go through these things yourself. So asking for specific info, editor critique, provider text, tutoring, teaching, how to advise, personal writing, communication, personal writing and communication. So yeah, there is autocorrect, and there's been those things for so much time. There's Grammarly, and I don't want to get into those things, but yes, you can see that. Yeah. And there's AI key players. Okay, that's where, for example, as someone who has had something to do with electronics, that's what I would pursue. But that is a good list to look at. Here it is: Microsoft, Amazon, Alphabet. Alphabet is Google, Nvidia, Apple, Tesla, Oracle, AMD, OpenAI, Meta, IBM, Palantir, Anthropic, Salesforce, X, top AI companies. You can go through this. Yes, I will just leave it here. And Forbes AI 50, that's what you want to look at. So that's what you're following when you're following current affairs. That's the kind of along these directions you study. Along these directions you keep yourself updated. Okay, so many things. Yeah. So I have known about, for example, he has his own company, and I've known about this name for so much time because of again I have a degree in engineering. So yeah, is DeepMind Deep company is Deep Learning AI, I think. Yeah, founder of Deep Learning AI. Okay. Midjourney, Mistral. Yeah, these are the names that keep coming up. OpenAI, all of us know about it. There's I have come across Comet and Atlas, and they are from Perplexity is from Perplexity is the company behind Comet browser and AI browsers and so on. So why would you use? I mean, I can give you a demonstration of wrong information coming out of AI right now. At the same time, it is being used for all sorts of productivity considerations and efficiency and so on by people all over the world, and looks like those who will not use this will have to pay the price, kind of. Okay. Anyway, this is what I wanted to share with you today. I have made some strong observations about empiricism. I would like you to go through these things. I have already given you the vocabulary, so to speak, non-fungible tokens, and it has been around as long as there has been someone ruling and others being ruled, and this is again getting into. So I said Chanakya on language, right? You might as well search. You might as well find such things in the Mahabharata and the Ramayana. So, and then there are the Vedas, Veda, Ved. Then there is Ved. I'll just use Ved. I don't have to subscribe to Shwa. I know Swaha. Yeah, exactly. So, strong things, but yes, strength is everything. To end this on a positive note, strength is everything. Not to mean might is always right or something like that, but yes, strength is everything. That would be my wish for you, my word to you. So, empiricism, find out more about this. We'll talk about this in coming videos as well. Thank you. Thanks for your time. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned.